Hello, friends. It's Sara Brown, your host of The Mothers, where we get to unpack the true stories of folks out there making a dent in the universe and also raising the next generation. These are conversations that are otherwise generally reserved for after-work drinks or small, exclusive sidebars at a work event. But with The Mothers, you get to hear them too. The world is increasingly forcing us to only see the metaphorical book cover. Yet we need to read the pages to know how it happened and how we might be able to get there ourselves, or to realize we're not all that different. Our guest today, Cait Scudder, better known as the Millionaire Mother, has built a business around a particularly provocative book cover. I wanted to see the pages. I wanted to better understand her story, her business, and learn how she had the balls to do it this way. I'm surrounded by intelligent, experienced people who are drawn to setting up an advisory or coaching business, but are hesitant to think they know enough to do so. Cait ran right through that wall when she started her own business roughly 10 years ago as a sort of executive coach / business consultant, helping women build their businesses and conquer limiting beliefs. After becoming a mother, Cait now has 3 kids under 5. She evolved the business to be singularly focused on mothers and helping them become well-resourced moms who do both, enjoy and participate in their kids' lives, and have successful, lucrative careers. And thus, the Millionaire Mother was born and has been growing ever since. Because, not shockingly, so many mothers want and need to do both. Cait and the Millionaire Mother are truly fascinating. In our interview, she talks about how her branding is intentionally confronting. It gets people to pay attention. And more than that, it's a foil to make people reflect on why. There are simple answers like sex appeal, but then there are deeper answers around how we expect women and mothers to look and behave. Cait is absolutely challenging those assumptions and creating, as she says, a new archetype for mothers. Beyond her brand, I found our conversation mesmerizing. She really has a knack for turning a question into an opportunity to champion her cause, call out the patriarchy, and challenge mothers to believe in their capacity and destiny to become more than their current circumstance. It was definitely one of those conversations where I left thinking, okay, why not me? Before we get started, a reminder to please click to follow The Mothers Podcast wherever you're listening and find us on Instagram at The Mothers Pod for clips, behind-the-scenes content, and to be a part of this growing community. And now, please enjoy my conversation with Cait Scudder, the Millionaire Mother. So yeah, thank you again for finding us, joining us. I love the platform that you've built. I'm like fascinated to learn about you because there's so much energy and pizzazz and I don't give a fuckness about what you're doing. Just so bold. And then I keep getting sucked into a lot of your messaging across various platforms that is all about this celebrating the both of it all, the motherhoodness and the desire for a successful career and the moneyness of it all. There's so many things that this is not the way one should talk about it, but there's part of me that's like, this is how a dude would do it. But you're making it, there's a strong feminine energy, obviously, but you're kind of, you're not bowing down to anybody.
Yes.
And I would love to get into sort of where you found that power. We like to start with generally hearing your version of your story as to how we get to Cait, Millionaire Mother of today, with multiple young children, building big businesses, helping other women build successful businesses. As far as the internet says, you're thriving and persevering and unafraid. But I imagine that maybe I don't know. I never started that way. I'm still striving one day to maybe be like that. But I'm curious if you could take us back to the beginning of Cait and how we got to Cait of today.
Well, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's so great to be here. So yes, I am the founder and CEO of The Millionaire Mother, a multiple 7-figure company devoted to serving entrepreneurial moms or moms who are in career transition and wanting to turn their gifts and their talents into a business that actually fits just motherhood, as opposed to trying to stuff their motherhood into the margins of their life or their business or their career. And so I started my business back in 2017. I was not yet a mother. I started my business in Bali, where I was living as an expat, and ran a really successful coaching company for 3 years. My business was just my name, Cait Scudder International. Started out as a, women's empowerment coach. I called myself a radiant living coach, helping women step into their fullness, their full radiant expression, take risks, build creative lives. And very quickly, I would say within about 6 months, my clients were just so lit up and so inspired. And they were like, how are you doing this as a business? And I sort of just fell into business coaching. I have that natural, strategist background, and that's how I fell into it. And I grew very quickly. I scaled to 6 figures in under a year, multiple 6 in under 18 months, featured in Forbes, blah, 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 the whole thing, TEDx. And then in 2020, I became a mom. January of 2020, I took the pregnancy test. And my first thought was just elation, like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. And my next response was, oh shit. Hope I can swear on your show.
Yes.
And I was just like, oh my gosh, I have built the wrong business. I'm going to have to burn it all down. Sarah, I even looked in my Google Drive and tried to find my resume.
Yeah.
That's how much I was like, because I had no model at the time. What does it look like to hold both worlds well? I knew I did not want to sacrifice my motherhood on the altar of my business, but I didn't know what it would look like to hold both. And then I had my daughter. My business absolutely exploded at the tail end of that pregnancy in the best way. I had my first 300,000 a month, and it just blew up. And I made a lot of adjustments for motherhood, but it really wasn't until I had 2 under 2. So on my daughter's first birthday, I found out I was pregnant with my son. And it was really after that I realized, like, that was my big identity shift, if I'm honest, of course. But in many ways, my experience is having one, I could kind of still like fudge it and get through, kind of still just like hustle and hand the baby off. But 2, forget about it. Like, it is a whole different constellation. It's a whole different ball game. And that's where I started to find, wow, I want to talk about this more. I want to talk about this on my platform. I want to talk about motherhood and how it's changing our capacity, our offer suite, the way that we market, the way that we hold clients, the way that we steward wealth and think about money. But that doesn't fit my current business. So let's just create a cute little 6-week program over here or do something over there. And the more that I really listened to my body, to my intuition, to my knowing, the more I was getting the hit. This conversation about motherhood needs to be at the center, not the margins. And so I rebranded my company in July of 2023. In August, we welcomed 15,000 new women into our community, and we have just been off to the races and haven't looked back. And that, I think, is such a testament to mothers. A lot of the women who started our businesses in the girl boss era, we're growing up and we're having kids and we're realizing, you know what? This doesn't actually serve us in the way that we were originally sold. We need to make modifications that actually serve and support our lives and our new visions as mothers.
Yeah.
And that is the work that we do here at the Millionaire Mother.
Yeah. I think it's awesome that you went through that experience of I'm working in an environment that wasn't built for me in some ways, which I come out of what turned into big corporate America, working at Google when it was smaller and then when it became massive. And I left and found myself among a lot of other women who had left established businesses, companies, and felt this sense of the reality of my life can't really coexist with the reality of that world. I think it's so interesting that for you, it sounds like from the beginning, you've been working for yourself in some way.
Yeah. I mean, my
still
original
felt that.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally. I mean, I did grow up as a teacher. Like, I went to school to be a teacher, taught in a high school for 2 years, very quickly burned out and realized that was not where I was meant to be teaching. I'm definitely that teacher archetype, but it wasn't meant to be in a high school classroom teaching Spanish conjugations. That's for sure. And
I wanted to be a teacher for a while. I get it.
It's an amazing skill set, but
Mm-hmm.
we grow and we evolve. And yes, to your point, so I did have my own business, but even still, there were so many ways that my business was not set up for motherhood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about what it comes across so clearly now, but I'm so fascinated by the origin of this because I'm, again, surrounded by highly qualified, competent women who often think, can I do that? Do I know enough to do that? Why am I qualified to be doing this? And it sounds like from a very early time in your career, or relatively so, you said you were building these businesses, coaching other businesses, and really were able to like light a fire for your clients. Can you, for folks like myself that suffer from, what's the word? Not the insecurity complex, the inferiority complex, which is also an insecurity complex, where people are always like, there's someone else that's an expert at that.
Mm.
How did you believe you could do this? Because I think
Okay.
if we could figure that out, so many other people would do the thing as
Okay.
opposed to thinking someone else should.
Yes. Okay. I love this question. I have two answers because number one, I do think this is a natural strength of mine. I grew up playing sports like boys ice hockey, captain of the basketball team, was recruited
I love
to
it.
college to play sports. So I feel like I have this natural leadership quality. And leadership, I mean, we can define leadership in so many ways, but I think leadership is really knowing that your presence and your contribution shifts outcomes. Your presence and your contribution has an impact so much greater than what you know. And being a leader isn't about being the star player. It's not about being the best or the only one on the team. It's about recognizing that bringing all of you to the court, to the table, to the game is going to shift the outcome of the game. And so I think I know that is a natural skill set of mine, and that was really cultivated through those formative early experiences playing sports, amongst other things. Now, I will say that in 2016, so I moved to Bali in 2015. 2016, I had this really interesting year where I was watching everybody else do it. It was my first time, like 2015 and before. I was like, yep, $38,000 a year as a teacher. That's just what you do. You get summers off. You like work hard. You complain. You feel absolutely drained when you get home. But that's just what work is. That was my mindset. That was how I understood exchanging time and talent for money.
Mm-hmm.
Then in 2016, when I was living in Bali, it was my first time being immersed in digital nomad culture, online entrepreneurship, people who had come, expats who were running multi-million-dollar companies from a laptop working part-time hours. And I was like, whoa, hold the phone. What is this? This is very different from the model that I have gone to very fancy colleges and masters and blah, blah, blah to become qualified in. This is not that. This is something very different. What is this? And I started to observe all these other ways of making money and running a business and pouring the sum total of your cumulative gifts into a brand and then selling and creating digital products. And it was very new. And I had that imposter syndrome so loudly. So I share both of these things, Sarah, because I'm like, yes, this is a natural talent, but also I had so much imposter syndrome. I was like, well, I already can see this amazing YouTube motivational speaker, dynamic woman. She's doing this 100 times better than I could. So why would I even start? And it's so funny to say that because that was back in 2016, right? And there's like still to this day, 2025 at the time of recording, there's never been a better time to start a business. And yet we can always tell ourselves the story of we're too late. Someone else is already doing it. But what I always say to that is there is nobody who is going to say what you're going to say, lead like you're going to lead, have the stories that you alone have lived. Your impact imprint is so extraordinary. Just go out there and do it. Start sharing, start yapping on the internet, start sharing your ideas because your presence and the way that you present what it is you're here to share is going to have an impact. But I really struggled with that. I sat on the sidelines for about a year and a half, watching other people, doubting myself, wondering if I had what it takes. And at the end of the day, the thing that got me out of my own way, I joined a mastermind, an incubator. I got accountable. And I just was like, you know what? The real honest truth is I just got sick of myself. I got sick of my own excuses. I got sick of advocating for why I wasn't ready or why I wasn't prepared enough or why I didn't know enough. And I just started. And that really is the remedy.
Mm-hmm. I love action is such an important antidote. I feel this is the first time I've been doing something out on my own, like moving outside of the world of shoulds and like sort of living up to others' expectations. And I very much agree that for a while I was stuck in this sort of paralysis of strategy and being like, I have to have every element of this sorted out. But the amount that I've learned just by starting, learn about myself and learn about what's possible. And just as you're describing, like there's so many other ways to do this. I feel like I had a sort of a midlife classic crisis where you wake up and you're like, why are we doing it this way? Mm-hmm. We don't have to live this way.
Totally.
Work could be something different. Is that a core part of what you help your current clients with, especially as you pivoted towards being very mother centric of this? Is there something sort of rooted in their own sense of self, identity, confidence that you're trying to unlock to get them to move forward? Yeah.
100%. And oftentimes, the work in business, I believe, it's always this dance between the inner work and the outer work, and the marriage of the identity and mindset and energetic work. Because of course, the classic, Wayne Dyer quote, change the way that you look at things, and the things you look at change the approach that you have to something, things are going to shift. But often, preceding even that, it's like, who am I now? So absolutely, we do a ton of identity work, but it's really this marriage of inner and outer. Oftentimes, it's not just believing. Here's what I want to say. Like when I was running my business before I rebranded to the Millionaire Mother, it was always this blend of energy, strategy. That was like my whole thing. That's still true. But I would say the refinement with the motherhood piece is, okay, refining our energy or turning our energy up, our audacity up, our self-belief up. Yes, 100%, that's the medicine. But for many of us, again, who have sort of trained in the entrepreneurial gym of that girl boss method, for many of us, we're just turning up the dial to get an outcome, like more sales in our business. But if we're not paying attention to, well, am I just like manipulating my energy to get an outcome, but not addressing at a more fundamental and more underlying level, what is the outcome I actually want? Many of us were trained to see success as, how can I get to the highest cash month possible this month and then do it again next month? And this real like short burst masculine cycle of quick revenue as quick as possible. We're not building for longevity. We're not building for legacy. We're not building for a company that is designed to support a holistic understanding of millionaire success as a mother. That often requires a very different identity. So the underlying work of giving ourselves permission to want what we want, becoming the woman who can steward a big mission. A big part of the activation that I do with my clients is moving from the maiden or the man way of doing business and moving out of that and moving out of the martyr frequency of motherhood and stepping in both arenas, in business and in life, into the matriarch archetype. The matriarch archetype is one who is generously poured into because she knows that the more supported that she is financially, energetically, relationally, the more she can steward her mission, the more benevolent and overflowing she can be. It is a real disruption of both inside the business world, but also inside of, the culture at large. We're used to seeing mothers who operate in that superwoman way, running on fumes, living and surviving from her adrenal glands. It is a disruption and a reclamation to say, actually, we're doing this differently. We are doing this as well-resourced women, not women who are running on fumes.
What did we do talk about this idea of having it all? I know I was researching your work a bit, and you talk about having it all. Often women, mothers think that means we're also doing it all. And just as you're saying, like, we don't have to do it all alone.
Yeah.
How do you apply that to your life with 3 kids, massive business, a husband, a house?
all the support, widen the base of support, widen the base of support. So we have phenomenal support in our home. We have a housekeeper who comes 15 hours a week. We have a nanny who is with us. Our big kids now, big 3 and now just turned 5, are in school. So that's a big shift for us as of this year. But we have so much help so that when I transition from being in my workday to being at home, I am not trying to hold 70 million other pieces. Our housekeeper helps us with laundry, changing sheets, like deep cleaning, so many things. And it's just this incredible energetic presence in our home. Our nanny helps me with meal prep and silly things like so many things, but dicing onions, changing out, restocking nappy tables, like the stuff that has to be done, but that needs to be done, but it doesn't need to be done by me. And I think that this is an incredible principle to apply both in your home and in your business. Again, this is where the inner work meets outer work. So I have all sorts of home systems and SOPs for the home and all of that I give to my clients who just rave that it revolutionizes their marriages, revolutionizes their homes. There's all sorts of strategy and implementation, but there's also that underlying energetic piece, because for many mothers, it's the feeling of, oh my gosh, have support in my home. I couldn't possibly, because my mom raised me on, you have to do it this way. And if you don't press the sheets, then you're like lazy, or whatever the story is, right? The narrative that we all have of doing it all equals worthiness, equals devotion, equals being a good wife or a good mom. So we have to start to unwind that. And I very unapologetically look at my time as my single greatest asset, both in my company, but also my family. Somebody else can chop the onions for the soup I'm making tonight, but only I can look my daughter in the eye and say, oh my gosh, honey, I love that unicorn. Look at that. If I'm too distracted to do that, I am missing the point. So I have intentionally, meticulously constructed my schedule and my support system to reflect being able to be to prioritize what matters most.
Yeah. I wrote it down as you said it. You said the martyr frequency of mother. Fascinating idea. Like, where did that, because I think that's a little bit baked into what you're talking about, which is that mothers, clearly we must be following some model consciously or subconsciously. This idea that it should be difficult. We should self-sacrifice. Like, sort of, that's kind of what love is sacrificing your needs for others. You currently present like you don't have that. And you also alluded to not necessarily having role models for how to mother and have a career. I'm curious kind of where that all comes from you, because I feel like a lot of what you're building is sort of a response to that in its own way of like, it doesn't need to be that way.
Totally.
Where was that learned initially?
I'm not really learning this from anybody. My human design, I'm a manifester. And so my innate design is really to create a new way and to be a disruptor and to be an innovator. And I see, I grew up, my mom is my best friend. I love her so, so much. I actually did a really incredible interview with both her and my grandmother on my podcast. I'll see if I can find the episode and I'll send it to you to link in the show notes here for anyone who wants to listen, because I think that backstory would be really helpful for folks to listen to understand like my lineage. But I think this is the cultural inheritance that we have in the West is like, we have moved from, the 1950s era of pressed dress, pearls, a martini, and like baked goods for when husband gets home. And like devotional wifehood and motherhood is everything is backing the husband's career. Then we had, of course, the really important cultural pendulum swing of the 70s and 80s, where we saw, the Gloria Steinems, the feminist movement, the modern, giving birth to modern feminism, which then in the 90s and 2000s really looked like peak girl boss, lean in. Women can have careers and don't have to be defined by their husbands or their children. But for the women who do want that, we just work like men. And that's where it comes in. And what happens underneath that is women are burning out. And, my mom's generation, and my mother in particular, she made the really conscious choice to put her career second. Didn't work when we were little. And then when we were in school, she just got part-time work, but it was never like, this is my mission, this is my calling, I desire to make incredible money. That wasn't her path. And I saw her, you know, I wouldn't say full-blown martyr, but I definitely saw her sacrifice for her family. And I saw my parents struggle financially. And I also saw her brilliance and her beauty, because I was the recipient of that. She was and is such an extraordinary and exceptional mother that I'm like, she shouldn't have to choose. And so that is part of my, you know, personal narrative and story and upbringing that I think probably lights a little bit of a fire underneath me. But like I said, for me, naturally, I'm a go-getter. Naturally, I'm a way paver. And that visceral feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant. Holy smokes, I'm really barreling into uncharted territory here. There's nobody that I can see with a body of work that is devoted to providing, you know, a guidepost for women navigating this. And I think that this is what I would say to anybody listening. If you're getting that tap on the shoulder to adjust your body of work or to modify it, it's really easy to say, well, someone else will do that. Someone else who's more of an expert, someone else who's more of this or that. And for me, it's like, we are the ones we've been waiting for. We're the ones who were called to it. And if you are feeling called to that in some way, trust yourself and let yourself lead the movement that you're here to lead. So I hope that answers your question. You know, It's one part witnessing the possibilities and the generations that have come before us, one part witnessing my own mother, and one part just seeing like a gaping hole for women in this generation who are holding ambition, but who are kind of realizing like, all right, I'm not just after the next glass of champagne and private jet photo shoot and whatever, like, not downing that stuff. I love money. I'm obsessed with money, but I'm not obsessed with chasing anything that's going to sacrifice how good it feels on the inside to create a legacy in my home.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I was going to ask. There's such an interesting, not attention, but like obviously the brand is the Millionaire Mother, which with that carries, certainly you're leading with financial wealth. But next to that or underneath that is sort of aligned to a purpose or aligned with meaning, whatever that person might, however that person might define it. But maybe you can walk me through how you came to that brand as being the thing that might sort of fill the gap. Because you're clearly trying to build something that was answering a question or filling a void for guidance and support. And I'm just interested where the financial side of that was like a leading contender.
100%. Well, I think that for so long, you know, women have been told to be demure, mindful, you know, downplay our success in the world. And it's absolutely designed to be a disruptor and make you go, wait, what? Like,
yeah.
Okay, you know? And I think it's interesting for anybody. And I have so many people who say, Cait, you triggered the shit out of me. And then I hired you because I knew that that trigger was exactly the medicine that I needed.
Yeah.
We are so unaccustomed to seeing a woman boldly claim her financial status, her financial impact. And we're certainly unaccustomed to the frequency mother, which is, you know, the more traditional way to talk about being a mom or a mama or whatever. Certainly unaccustomed to that word having when you hear mother, you think nurturing, you think lullaby, you think support, you don't think millionaire straight away. And part of the mission and the work that we do here is questioning those associations and questioning the singularity of association. Like, why wouldn't you hear like millionaire funnel bro or the millionaire, you know, real estate tycoon or whatever. And you're like, yep, totally makes sense. Millionaire mother. Okay. Or you hear the nurturing mother, the tending mother, the homemaker, whatever. And I really just think that this brand, I mean, it's so much bigger than me. And a lot of people are like, you're the millionaire mother. I'm like, well, no, I'm the founder of that company. But it is an archetype. The millionaire mother is an archetype. It's an archetype for a woman, and you don't have to have a 7-figure net worth to claim that archetype. The archetype is there to ignite a remembrance in you that you can have both. You were born to hold both. You have the innate capacity to birth both children into this world and raise children in this world and birth $1 million business.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that identity feels confronting, I would say to anybody who's listening to this, like, sit with that, sit with why, sit with what associations the very name challenges inside of you, and what desires might be stirring underneath that activation.
Oh my God, totally. That and just the sexual nature sort of some of your branding too. I had the same response. I was like, I'm going to sit, just as you said, I'm
either blocking her or I'm
this.
hiring her or I'm inviting her on the podcast or something.
No, well, I was just like, this is interesting. Like, I don't, and I really was like, I want to ask, because there's also, I see the images that you have on your website, for example, certainly lead with a sort of more, I don't know, stiletto heel sexuality element to your brand. And they're also sort of more classically softer woman with children walking on the beach kind of imagery. And I thought as I was absorbing it, I was like, these are, to your point, these archetypes, or there's so few stories that women can like latch onto and say, that's how my life will go. And few of them integrate. You're either, I don't know, the hypersexualized mother who like somehow makes money in a bad way, quote unquote, or you're like this homemaker. And then there may be 2 or 3 in between.
Yeah, totally.
But there aren't enough of the mess, not the mess, but there aren't enough that just say kind of go your own way. Like all of these things can like coexist. So no, absolutely. I appreciate it.
And I am definitely, people meet me because they're like, you're confusing because you're definitely like a homemaker. I'm like, my happiest place is in my kitchen. I love to cook. I'm like, my home smells like pot roast and cookies, and there's always a fire lit, a hearth candle. I'm like so homey, and I love wearing fancy clothes and having nice things and making lots of money. And it's all of it because we are arranged. And, to the sexual piece, I think it's interesting that you picked up on that, because it's not something that I even consciously, I'm like, all right, let's make our branding sexy. But sexual energy, again, also so taboo, also the cultural association, even if we have never spoken these words out loud, the assimilated understanding is, sex, woman, Garden of Eden, the fall of man, like sexual equals bad. And I think one of the most delicious reclamations that we can have as a mother is like, how do you think every person got here? How do you think life moves? Sexual life force is energy and motion. And when we reclaim that inherent generative, creative life force power, we have not only the ability to birth more babies, that is how we birth movements. That is how we make money, is by harnessing that. So there is 100% an undertone of reclaiming our life force.
Yeah. Yeah. Motherhood seems like it was such a catalyst for you to move in a certain direction. You were building certainly successfully already, but then just as you said, like everything actually took off after you had your second kid, first kid?
My first actually is when it started to take off, but the redirection of the business happened after having my second. Yeah.
I wonder to that self, or even to anyone folks that are listening that are home with their first kid and wondering, how am I going to, where do I go from here? I've lost myself, or I have dreams, but I thought I had dreams. I thought I had professional aspirations. I thought I was ambitious. But currently I feel just very tired and lost. What would you say to that person?
Honestly, I would probably give her a hug. I would probably ask if I could make her something, a cup of tea. I would say to her, it's okay to feel how you feel. It's okay to feel lost. It's okay to feel like the ground is up and up is down and everything feels turned around. That is so much of what motherhood is. If motherhood has taught me anything and has done anything for me, it has expanded my capacity to be in the unknown. And while that feels terrifying to our ego, because in the known, we find identity. In the known, we find a sense of safety, even if it's false. In the known, we feel like we are in control. And in birth, in motherhood, I'm like, anyone with a toddler, can I get an amen? We don't have control. We don't know how it's going to go. We are all of a sudden now existing with tiny fragments of our soul and our own heart beating in bodies outside of us. And it is one enormous exercise in letting go. And birth is the same for many different reasons. And so what I would say to her is, please just keep going forward, one step at a time. Do not try to go back. There is no going back. And that can feel terrifying, but we have to trust the process. And you might be in a season right now of overwhelm and a lack of clarity, but clarity will come. You just have to keep moving forward. And if she's feeling fearful and contracted and like, oh my gosh, my life is already such a crazy, tornado since having a kid, and the thought of having another, oh my gosh, what will happen? I don't know what will happen for you, but I do know that if you feel called to grow your family, that is never a decision that you're going to regret. And the things that you can no longer do once your capacity starts to change because of motherhood, consider that that is divine redirection and a gift, not a limitation. And for me, motherhood has not lessened my ambition. It has refined it. It has refocused it. And it has truly redefined it. It is put such clarity on what matters and what doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Can you talk? I like the idea of the these sort of seasons of uncertainty. I imagine as you're building your empire, I don't know if it's the right word to say, but I'm sure that there are times where you're like, is this working? Am I going in the right direction? We all have those moments.
Oh, totally.
I'm just curious if you could share some of those, because I think those are the things that we feel most alone with.
Oh, totally.
And it's helpful to see someone who is has seemingly is so successful, and yet also has gone through these periods, and they continue on a upward trajectory. But yeah, if you could share how you navigated those, that'd be great.
Yes. Okay, great. So first thing I would say, anybody who you are looking at, myself included, who is successful is not just like luckily striking W's the whole time and just like hitting win after win. They have a higher threshold to be with failure and be with discomfort. I'm like, you might see my wins. I am a persistent motherfucker. I do not take failure as finality. I take it as feedback, and I refine, and it is so humbling. There are moments every month that I want to throw in the towel, but I don't, because a moment is just, it's just a momentary hit of this is hard. And yet, and this is where I source so much. It's not just like motivation, #inspo. It's like literal, visceral evidence. I'm like a scientist. I'm like, I get to look in my children's eyes every single day and see the glistening evidence of the hardest things I have ever done, which is give birth to each of them. I get to see evidence of how the best things come from perseverance and sticking something through and being in that unknown and expanding my capacity beyond what I thought comprehensible. And I have that evidence in front of me every single day. I have that reminder. And so, whether it was, I can tell you the story of when I launched the Millionaire Mother. A month prior to that, I closed down an offer that had generated millions of dollars. And I issued over $100,000 of cash refunds. And I cut off my monthly recurring revenue by, I don't know, $80K per month. And I was like, this is risky. This is, as the financial breadwinner, as a mom of 2 young kids, I'm like, am I absolutely fucking insane? But I knew I needed to make space for the next thing to come through. And that's when, a few weeks later, we welcomed all these people into our community. We had a $650,000 launch. It was massive. And but it couldn't have happened unless I let go of what didn't serve. And I think that is just something I constantly return to. And it feels scary to let go of things. It feels scary to step into the unknown and step into the next thing. But I think we have to just keep trusting. And so that internal resilience is really the thing that has served me the most.
Yeah, totally. Does that go back? I love that you're an athlete. I'm an athlete. I played a ton of soccer and stuff. Is comfort with failure or resilience, does that really harken back to your athletic childhood, or was it
I'm
something
sure
totally
it,
separate?
I mean, I'm sure it does. I don't know. I feel like certainly that resilience and that grit was really, really developed as an athlete. I'm sure it does. To be honest with you, I don't know where it comes from, but
Mm,
I'm sure it was shaped by that in a big way.
yeah, yeah. I still struggle with failure. I'm horrified by failure. I don't know if you can share any tips for
What
folks,
comes up
because
for you? Like what? Tell me more.
yeah, I mean, I think for me, I'm overly, my whole identity is overly attached to always doing well at something.
Mm,
And I also notice that I don't trust that if something's not good in this moment, I don't trust that that doesn't mean it won't be okay in 5 seconds. Like
mm,
there's a real urgent panic that sets in of
yeah.
it's not going well now, it never will.
Okay.
But yeah.
Two things come up for me when I hear this. One is, I really think we live, I feel like a boomer dad. We live in a culture these days, like everything I'm saying. But we really live in a culture that is so instantaneous. Amazon
Hmm.
Prime, Alexa, play this. We're used to things happening instantly, and we're instantly fed, constantly fed an instantaneous feed of like instant results. When
Yep.
we want something, we get an instant result from Google. We are no longer in the MapQuest days, people, of having to make sure we've got printer paper to know where we're going.
Hmm.
Um, so it's normal. It's so normal to want an instant success. And yet you look at child development. I'm reading and thinking a lot about this lately because I have a 5-year-old. In human development, resilience and persistence and the ability to problem solve, like this is what human development is. This is what the
Hmm.
human journey requires of us. It's actually absurd when you think about it in a broader context to expect instantaneous perfection. What even? Like as if anything
Yes, of
in
course.
civilization, right?
Yeah.
But we're so myopic because we just Amazon Prime anything we need to get here in 1 to 2 days.
Yep.
So we have lost the ability to sit with discomfort, to sit in the delta between having a vision for something and seeing it come to life. And yet in that delta, that is actually where the magic is. That is,
Mm-hmm.
but most people throw in the towel and move on to something else. That's why
Mm-hmm.
everyone, I mean, it's not why everyone, but shorter attention spans, attention
Oh,
deficit disorder.
yeah.
Like I'm not a doctor, but I'm like, we hop around seeking for that hit of dopamine because the longer resilience of working through failure is more uncomfortable. And yet
Mm-hmm.
I actually think that is where some of our greatest character building is.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that I don't know why I'm thinking about this, but I'm just thinking about this partner that I had in my early 20s. He was such a lovely guy, quirky, went to this like artsy school, would not have been a long-term fit for me, but he was lovely. We had like the most romantic, sexy summer fling.
Mm-hmm.
His name was Lukey,
Mm-hmm.
and I just thought he was the best. And it was so obvious to me that we were not like, I loved him in a way, but I wasn't in love with him.
Mm-hmm.
But I like loved spending time with him. I loved what we had. And it was such an important relationship for me because for so many different reasons. But I think about that, and society and the dating and love world would say like, oh, it ended, like that was a failed relationship.
Mm.
And I'm like, that was the opposite of a failure. It was a total success for what it was meant to be, which
Yeah.
was a short term whatever. And so I would say in business, let's say you have a launch, or let's say you run a program, and let's say you sell 3 spots instead of 35. What are you going to want to do? Hide your head in the sand, never talk on Instagram again, doubt yourself, complain, avoid. Should I refund these people? Should I not? Blah,
Mm-hmm.
blah, blah. But let's just say you are like, wow, okay, that did not go the way that I want. I could either refund these people, hide for 3 months, question my entire existence, or I could show up and deliver the shit out of this program for these 3 people. I could serve them. I could not make this mean that I'm a failure, that I'm wrong, that I'm destitute, that I'm designed for failure, that I need to get a job at 7-Eleven. I could just serve them and serve them so, so well.
Mm-hmm.
And let the next thing become apparent. I can study the data from what happened. I can use my strategy brain and make modifications, but I can also see oftentimes, and this is some of the most uncomfortable and some of the best work that I do with clients, is like taking stock of what quote unquote fails. Many times there is something inherent in there that needs to fall away. Not all the time. Sometimes it just needs refinement, patience, attention to detail, and execution shifts. But sometimes somebody's selling an offer that they don't actually want more clients in because their capacity is limited. So their energetic body is actually blocking money from coming in because they don't have capacity to take it in. And then we refine the offer, we refine the delivery, we shift the messaging, their whole system expands, and they absolutely crush it the next time. But if we're reading that failure as I'm bad, I'm a bad entrepreneur, I'm not going to be able to make any more money, I've lost my touch, which is what most of us do when we experience failure, we internalize it and make it an us problem. We shut ourselves off. So let's stop labeling every failure as evidence of something being wrong and start looking at how can some of these failures actually be extraordinary successes and redirections towards the thing that we ultimately want.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. Very well said. I also, one of the reasons that I left sort of a comfortable, established, a job that, the world would say, oh, she's fine. I left, and I grew up in all those institutions. I left because I knew I had to run at the thing that was scary. Yeah. And I knew I had to put myself in a scenario to like fail and potentially fail like really publicly. Because I think we have these life lessons that we're all, our life presents us with things to learn those like core lessons to us. And I feel like one for me and one that I'm trying to model better for my kids, which I actually wanted to ask you about how you think about modeling for your kids, but was the importance of failing and being okay anyway. I'm not always great at it, but I think it's really, to your point, we only see, at least in my upbringing, the expectation was success. Now we have social media world where all we see is success and working. And it's really important to like go back to your, core self, your core people, your core humans, and remember they don't care. They just like you. But yeah, since starting this, so there have been some questions that are sort of like, why do we need to integrate the mothers and their work and their home life and their kids? Like why sometimes, like much of our success often comes from putting them in separate boxes. Like I'm at work and I actually don't think about my kids. That's how I've operated as much as I can. Where to your point of, I find we resource ourselves, we have support, we have help that we can trust that allows me to be present in this because I know my kids are okay. Knock on wood, as I'm saying this. But how do you integrate your kids in your work in any way, or are they more inspiration maybe for the work that you do?
It's a bit of, there's certainly inspiration for, it would be very challenging to have this conversation if they were in here and I was trying to tend to them as their primary caregivers. Right. So I think it's appropriate to have, segments of the day that you're not having to context switch throughout the hour. So I definitely set up my rhythm and my days of the week and my hours of the week in such a way that allows me to have more focused time in both. I do think that's really important. But I also absolutely integrate. And it's one of these fluid things, in motherhood, we want to come to these absolute truths. And if having 3 under 5 has taught me anything, it's like, just anytime you think you're an expert at anything, just wait a month because it's going to change. And that has certainly been the case for me. Every single kid has like served me a massive helping of humble pie over and over again. But when each of them were little, I would breastfeed on calls. I would breastfeed on a podcast episode. I would have these moments where it was easier to integrate, but there's seasons of business where that's possible. Now, sometimes if I don't have childcare and my little two, my boys, are down for a sleep, I could have Ella coloring on the bed that's inside of my office, and I would be able to have more of an uninterrupted ish moment. And if she came over, I would just hit mute and I would say, so sorry about that, and keep going. Whereas before, the idea of being so quote unquote unprofessional was unfathomable to me. So I definitely think that acknowledging, one way I like to think about this is thinking about all of the different needs that exist. As business owners, we as women, as mothers, we as the CEO, a woman, have needs, but our companies as their own entity has needs and requirements. That is likely visibility, your face to show up, you writing emails or checking emails or corresponding with your team or your clients or what have you. You have needs, your children have needs, then the family unit has needs, the household has needs. So the more clear you can be about what needs actually exist and what resources we have to be able to meet them, the more we can find, creative solutions. So there's definitely ways that I integrate them. On photo shoot days, of course, my kids are in them because it's telling the story of motherhood and business. And we make it a whole thing. We all get so excited. We lay out our outfits the night before. It's photo shoot day.
Yeah.
They're so excited. And just a little small thing, like my son, Jack, is going through a phase where he is obsessed with construction. First thing in the morning, top to tail is like dressed in construction gear, carries around a humongous toolbox everywhere he goes. He's just obsessed. And on the last photo shoot, I'm like, he's either going to be wailing and crying if I try to pry him out of this and like to dress up like a fan, or I could just let him be 3 and let him wear. So he just wore construction gear for the whole thing because that's what, and I'm like, this is perfect. So I'm not going to try to control this. I am going to just let it be what it is.
Yes.
So if you see new brand photos, Mr. Jack is rocking the construction gear. So it's just like a small example of that way of integrating. Cause I'm like, I don't need to force this.
Yeah. And probably might get more engagement like that. So many people relate to that picture more than the perfect picture, but yeah.
Yes.
Before we shift to these sort of 3 closing questions, I didn't know if there's an offer business-wise. I didn't know if you wanted to give a little context for listeners. We can also cut this if you don't want to.
100%. Well, yes. So at the time of this recording, we have the Inheritance Workshop, which is coming up. It is a 90-minute masterclass where I am going to be talking you through how to build a legacy business that sets you up for that inheritance you're passing down in your finances, but also in your family. So if you are somebody who is wanting to build a business that is optimized for motherhood, if you are somebody who is thinking about what you are passing on to your children financially, but also the energetic blueprint of confidence, self-trust, and really fully going after what you're here to create and do in this world, then come to this workshop. And if you're someone who knows that you want deeper, more extended support with that, after the Inheritance Workshop, we're going to be opening up doors to MME, the Foundry, which is my signature mastermind for mother entrepreneurs. So I'll give you the link to both of those, Sarah, and you can include those in the show notes. And if anyone who's listening to this is like, something in this conversation has activated or sparked or inspired something in you, please send me a DM. I'd love to, hear from you what's coming up. And, you can check the link in the show notes of Sarah's podcast to get all the information.
Beautiful. Yeah. I can see you're very good at this. I feel like you've already unlocked. I feel like I've been helped through this conversation.
Great. I'm so glad. That's the point.
So I'm glad you're out there sharing your gift with others. It's awesome. All right. Before we let you go, we like to ask all of our guests these 3 questions, which you can answer as quickly or as extensively as you want. But the first is, if you could go back to your new mom self, not that long ago for you, but new mom self, is there anything that you'd like to say to her?
Just keep going. It's going to get better. It's going to get easier. I feel like some of the wisest words that I ever received was actually from a lifetime career teacher. And it was when I was in graduate school for becoming a teacher. But I actually think that wisdom is so transferable to motherhood. He said to us, don't get too high and don't get too low. And I just feel like that's it. And I think about, for me, I had very, very challenging postpartums with all 3, specifically around breastfeeding. I mean, some of truly my darkest nights of the soul were not actually around, and I had a very, challenging first birth, but it was breastfeeding that brought me to my darkest places in the very early years. or in the early months rather, I struggle with mastitis. I've had mastitis 3 out of 3, been hospitalized each of the 3 times. It's been so
Oh my
hard.
God.
And don't get too high, don't get too low. If it is so hard, if you are white knuckling your way through, if you are so tired that you can't even function, if you are digging your fingernails into your skin every time you nurse because it's so hard, if you are, struggling with your partner, if the house is a mess, like whatever is real for you right now, it's going to pass. It's going to get better. And you're going to sleep again. You are going to see all of the fruits of your labor in ways that will just crack you open in the best of ways. So keep going. It's going to get better. It's going to get better than you could possibly know.
Yes. Great answer. Is there anything that you, in retrospect, could have provided to yourself or your family, or a theme of things that could have made this journey a little bit easier?
Do not ever be afraid to ask for support. I joke that, so when I was pregnant with my first, it was COVID. And so everyone was afraid to gather in person. I didn't have a in-person baby shower. I didn't have a blessing way, like a mother's ceremony. I didn't have a meal train because I had a lot of shame of like, oh, well, I can afford food. I shouldn't have a meal train because I don't need that. And I joke that with my third, if I met you in an elevator, I'd be like, well, Sara, it was lovely to meet you. Here's a QR code for my meal train. Here's my Venmo. And I just like widened my aperture to receive support. And so if I could go back from the very beginning, I would say receive all of the support. There is zero shame. Again, the more well-resourced and supported you are, the better it's going to be for absolutely everyone.
Yes. Ask for help and accept the help. I totally agree. All right. Last question. Your kids may be listening, or one day they will. Is there anything you'd like to say to them?
Oh my God, this question. I love you guys so much. I love you so much. I'm so proud of you. And thank you. Thank you for being the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Yes. Thank you so much, Cait.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for ruining my eye makeup at the end of this session.
You still look beautiful. This was really, really such a pleasure. I was so curious to get to know, because I just find what you're doing so powerful, and also so it carries such complexity. And I'm so glad to get to know you and the heart behind all of it. It's really powerful.
Thank you so much.
And I wish you the best of luck. And thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure.
Okay, wow. That was fascinating. I have to call V.
Hello. I get so giddy when I hear your voice say hello. It makes me so happy.
I know. Hello.
Something good is gonna happen.
Who's here? What's up? Thank you
Tell
for
me all
letting
the
me call
things.
you. Totally out of the blue, spontaneously. Okay, wait. I just talked to Cait Scudder, who more commonly known as the Millionaire Mother.
Fuck yes.
What an icon. She's fascinating. Fascinating. So much power radiating. Like, I felt like there's just so much strength and power like emanating, like it was like coming like through the screen when I was talking to her.
Yes.
Because and we talked about this, so I can say this out. I talked about this with her, where you look at all of her branding online and you're kind of like, what's happening? Like, there's a lot of like sort of money, sexy cachet mixed with like farm, mixed with women's groups, mixed with I'm just a homesteading mom, like a humble mother, all happening at once. And I talked to her about that because I was just like, I was so intrigued to meet you because I want to know who you are within all of this. And she was like, I'm glad you brought it up, because a lot of people see me and they're like, she said this herself. She's like, a lot of people see me and they think, they're like, you trigger me more than anyone I know. I was
just like, get it, girl.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more about that.
Tell me about that. I'm triggered.
Because I was not. And then she said, and I did work on this when we were looking at her as a guest. I was like, I'm just so fascinated, but there's so much going on. And then so much of, as usual, when one has a strong reaction towards something, typically the first thing to do is to like look inward and be like, why am I having this reaction?
Yes.
And that
Yeah.
was what she then talks about a lot, which was like, first, she's putting up kind of an archetype of a style of being as a woman, as a mother, as a business person, as a wife, as an everything that just doesn't exist enough. And there's so few public facing sort of narratives of what a mother could be and what a woman could be, that intentionally she's kind of like disrupting what you might assume this branding would be. And so she's like basically on purpose being controversial and getting people to think about, why is it jarring to see a woman who's so brazenly being forward or brazenly speaking about like making a shit ton of money or showing off her cleavage, or like they're just not, as she said, women are we're supposed to be like demure and warm and humble and all these things. And her point was basically like, you can be all those things and you can be all these other things too. Like you could be a homemaker, a homemaker and a homewrecker. No.
Yeah.
Which I think goes to the origin of her whole business around supporting. It was previously supporting women building their businesses, not even women. And it was just supporting people through growing their businesses. And then once she became a mother, she pivoted to more specifically focusing on mothers, often entrepreneurial founder mothers, who are trying to figure out and build their career or build their business like through this alongside motherhood. And her point being, she never saw really meaningful examples of both, of a mother and a successful businesswoman. And so she's just like, that's bullshit. And I'm building this myself. And now I'm helping everyone else see all of the ands that we can be at once. And I think perhaps what's unique about her is that she's so bravely doing it publicly. Like you and I and everyone maybe listening is like, yeah, of course. Like I'm not just this one person as I show up here. I'm quirky and weird and who knows what. But you don't always see that as your public facing, professional facing brand. And I think she is doing that. Anyway, I left being like, damn, you're brave and bold, and I am like cowering in the corner.
I'm a piece of shit. No, but that's so interesting. Also, like, good for her for
I know.
hearing someone say, like, wow, I'm so triggered. And she's like, okay.
Yes.
Why?
She's so unapologetic. It's so cool.
Yeah, like, fuck yeah. That's amazing. Also, doing it in front of her kids. Like, also, and then, like, I don't know, subconsciously and however she does this outwardly to them, presenting and representing that and then being like, it's good for you to do that too, is probably really scary and awesome, you know? Like, I want my son to be unapologetic and whatever, fierce and however he wants to show up in this world. And I'd be like, but also like fit the mold so you don't get like, I don't know, people don't feel threatened by you or intimidated or think you're just like taking up too much space. I don't know. So that's, wow. Good for her. Damn.
Yeah. It really is interesting. And she also talked about where this kind of came from, where she went to like traditional high-end school. Like she went to Amherst, then she got like a degree from Smith College to be a teacher.
Wow. Cool.
So she's and what I love about that is like, she's from New England where we don't do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we're, whether we want to be or not, like sort of a Protestant, like we're the high intellectual, high and mighty, silly people. Yeah. And she's basically like, fuck that. Like, let me live my full existence. I loved that piece. But then she talked about how it was maybe 10 years ago, and she was, to her credit, she was like out in Bali, like traveling the world. And she started to notice, she was teaching, and she was like, I guess my fate is to make $38,000 a year, and that's just what it is. And then she kind of noticed, looking around, that there were all these people, typically bros, that were suddenly working off their laptops and like making all this money, like doing it in a different way. And she was like, why can't I do that? And she did. What I appreciated was she was like, there was at least a year where I just watched and didn't feel like I had a right to play here. But eventually she just went ahead and started this like business basically advising others to become their best selves and also build their better businesses. And it was such a nice, I asked her this too, because I feel like I'm surrounded by typically women who are like, I would love to just like be a thought leader and like advise others, but like, what do I know?
Right.
And she was like,
Diminishing your
I just did it.
capabilities and strength.
Also, she's an athlete.
Okay. Fuck yeah, of course she is. That also kind of makes sense of the like, I could do this. Like, you have to have some grit and determination, whatever. Like, I don't know. I feel like similar to you, that resonates, right? Like growing up in the not competitive, but I guess, yeah, like in sports, you have that mentality. So
Yeah.
fuck yeah.
It was
Good
very
for her.
strength, like, yeah. I think the one other last piece of advice that I wanted to like pass along and
Tell me how to be a
double click
millionaire.
on, tell you how to be a millionaire, was she talked a lot about how for her and then in the people that she coaches, one of like the most important things is to get really comfortable with failure and not being hurt by failure, not feeling like you failed by having what you would have otherwise thought was failure, but just being able to like shake hands with failure and be like, thank you. Thank you for your service. And she almost like started coaching me in our conversation because I was like,
I was
for me,
just gonna
failure,
ask.
I
did
really
you get-
try not to. I'm like, real. I know this is
Yeah.
a weakness, quote unquote, of mine. And she was like, well, tell me, what does it bring up for you? And I was like,
That's so
and
funny.
she was just like, failure is not a personal thing. It is not, it is a teacher. I mean, it's like saying all of the things. To fail is not, there's really a lesson in it, and that everyone's success is like about looking at what didn't go well previously. So it's just more, I think it goes back to, I've talked about this at least with you so much since starting this, which is that I notice more that when something's not going well or something doesn't work right away, my response indicates that I have no faith that it'll ever work later. So I respond in a way that with urgency that comes from this idea that if it's not working now, it never will. And I need to sort of take a beat. Like count to 10.
Yeah. It's so interesting you have that awareness. So you know that that is true. And it is still hard to change that, like that pattern.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask if she had like coached you or if you had if you asked her advice on, I don't know, this reminds me of everyone, make sure you're following Sara on LinkedIn, but how you had posted about like, oh, if a post only has, a few responses, that's a failure and I should just like, give up or whatever. Like, this is just not worth it. Why am I investing time and energy into this? But it's interesting because for me, I am like, as we know, fairly opposite of that, where I'm like, oh, you reached 3 people. Like, that's fucking awesome. That like those 3 people are now affected by that. How cool. But I could see how I think like there's space for both of these ways of thinking and processing to be beneficial and like helpful. It's just when you take it to the extreme or don't see the other side that it becomes like detrimental to your growth or parenting or whatever you're, in whatever capacity you're practicing these things. But it's so interesting. Yeah, to me, I'm like, a failure is, well, it has such a negative connotation and sounds so negative, but it's just like succeeding in a different way than you thought you would.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'd love to survey all firstborn children on how they feel about failure relative to any
Truly
like a second or a third. I'm trying to find excuses essentially.
assumptions.
There's something about, I think about this a lot. As the oldest, like your benchmark for functioning as an adult or as functioning as a person is to fit in with the adults, which inherently means you're like overperforming. So when you're 9, you're like, yeah, I should hang in a conversation with a 37-year-old or a 45, So there's just a way that your expectations are so high, impossibly high, as opposed to if I were a second, third, whatever born, I would, when I look up, I would see my next sibling. I wouldn't, and I would be like, oh, how am I, not even performing relative, but like, how is my existence? That would be my point of reference. I wouldn't be, my point of reference wouldn't be my 50-year-old dad. My, my point of reference would be, I don't know, my 12-year-old brother or my 12-year-old sister, which somehow makes it seem more normalized to not be great at everything.
That makes sense. That's such an interesting thought because I obviously I have an older sibling, but I don't know that I was that conscious of that. But maybe it is such like a subconscious, like unlearned thing. It just is that is what happens when you growing up. Do you feel like you look back on your life and think of times that you failed? Like, do you feel like, oh, there's a certain situation or experience or choice you do?
I remember, like,
Or,
in a way that when I think back on them, my face gets hot. I remember
oh, Sarah.
getting a C- in chemistry freshman year at Harvard. It makes me still feel so bad. And then it,
God forbid you don't know chemistry.
I know. Well, it's
Oh.
something like that then
It's
gets
so
attached to
interesting.
like, oh, I thought I was going to be a doctor, but I guess
Sure.
maybe I'm not going to be. So it's sort of,
Sure.
there's also like a way that a lot of these small moments feel like I did a
Big.
bad job of keeping them small. They felt
Mm,
like they felt like they mattered a lot. I also think
sure.
back to like I had a stupid own goal in a game that we won like 10 to 1, but I like scored on us, or a penalty kick that I missed. Like that's fun. Like I have a much more generalized memory of
Sure.
things that went well and very specific memories of when things did not go well.
That is so interesting to me because, first of all, to me, I'm like, you have not ever failed. To me, I'm like, you are so incredibly wise and intelligent and capable and aware, and everything that you do, you're like very good at. And like when I think back on my life, I'm like, I can't think of a time that I've ever failed. I could think of times that I'm like, ooh,
Yeah.
like, oops, I thought that was gonna turn out different, but like, guess that was
Yeah.
wrong. Or like, interestingly enough, you caused me to think about like at UConn, I also got a C- in a physics of the environment course,
Mm.
which was just a gen ed. Like I just had to do,
Yeah.
since it's a liberal arts education, you have to take these class, whatever. And to me, I was like, ah, but like that sucked, and it was like shitty and embarrassing and ultimately brought down like my GPA, and I hated that. And I
Yeah.
was like, well, I improved from the start of class to the end of class. My grades got better, and like this isn't something that I need to be like a the best at anyway. It's just like
Yeah.
there's other people that can be the best at that, and I could do other things.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I was just like,
Good for
yeah,
you.
like I guess technically like failed, but I'm like, like
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's so
So,
good.
but also it's interesting because I think that like the it can be such a I don't know, beneficial thought process, I guess, to like push yourself to always want to do better. Like I don't want to be complacent in things, right? Like I
Mhm.
do, and similarly for my kids, like I want to push them to like be the best version of them they can be, and like continue to explore and try to just like do everything to their fullest extent. But I'm also like, and okay.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
don't know.
No,
There's
it's lovely.
yeah.
Yeah. I feel like the bravest thing I did was to try to do
This.
what was I trying to say? I feel like in a weird way I'd built a life where I could hide so
Uh-huh.
that any failures were hidden by like, oh, but she went there. Oh, she worked
Uh-huh.
there. Like no one would really know.
Mm.
And I feel like that allowed me to like continue to live in
Aw,
fear.
Sarah.
And
Aw.
actually, this is really strictly limited to my professional, whatever
Sure, sure, sure.
whatever became like I think professional
Yeah.
existence. Like the rest
Yeah.
of my world, I feel like I am proud of who I've become and
Yep.
the relationships I have and how I connect with people. Like I don't feel afraid of that.
Yeah.
But it's really on the professional side. And so I think so leaving those institutions that like I could wrap around myself and say like, you're fine, you didn't fail. Like, and running at failure basically and saying, I'm going to try to do this. And I told Cait this too. She was like, good for you. that I was, yeah, I couldn't, I was I'm just so exposed. I can't avoid feeling failure, and I can't avoid potentially failing in a very public way. And I was like, I need to like confront this thing because I don't want it to dictate my life. And I think what I've also learned by moving outside of a lot of those institutions, where of course those people are all failing in different micro and big ways, but they continue to show up. You don't lead with that because it's bad for the business you're representing and it's bad for you. What I like on the outside now is that people are just people. And like their humanness is what's allowing them to try to build this thing. And no one's, I don't know, we're all in some ways, like we're all really failing really well.
I think that like that is such a important lesson is that like it kind of seems like from the outside it's very easy for everyone to seem like they have things like figured out and they know what they're doing or whatever. And like no one really does. And you probably never really will because we're always like discovering and learning and figuring out the world and how things work and interact and whatever. And like it's just about embracing that and being like, well, in this moment this was like the best that I could do given the circumstances and the variables. And like, I'm alongside other people who are figuring out at the same time. And we all like try to help each other as the best we can while also being like,
Yeah, totally.
I don't really know.
Totally.
Like, I hope that this is the best, but it also could not be.
Totally.
Like,
yeah.
So,
yeah. But I think one of the many reasons that I really have always I love and a lot of people love being around you is that you love yourself as much as like in many ways we hate ourselves. But like there's a warmth.
Don't forget, I actually hate myself too.
But like I am what I am. And like
Yeah.
and you're very quick to like, I don't know, give yourself grace, which makes me feel like I could do that too a little bit.
You deserve it. I think everybody does. Like, I mean, except for like really bad people. I wish that other people did that to themselves. And I wish that I had like a little more of you and me also. Cause I'm like, oh, sometimes I think about that. Like, well, who would I be if my sole focus in, undergrad was like, just like really trying to like get the best grades possible and study as much as possible and whatever, like what would be, I guess there's this like, what if, like, what is my max potential? And like, what if it's untapped and I don't know because I didn't, because I spent time doing these other things. And I think that that will be a balance. Like my partner, I feel like, well, I wonder what they would say. Probably he would say he did the same, like where I know that I probably could have done better. And I know that like, I could probably be in a more challenging or intense field of work or whatever, but I'm just like, like I don't really want that. But there is this like what if or I don't know, what do other people think of that? I definitely surround myself with people who are in like high achieving fields and make great money and like are respected and leaders and whatever. And sometimes I'm like, oh, like, would that be something that would be good for me to do? Like, should I have done that? And I'm like, and I feel like there's that delicate balance of like knowing it's a possibility and it's okay if you don't want to choose that. And thinking about when parenting, like being like, I want you to always do your best. But also there's this other side, right? Where it's like, and like live your life and have a healthy relationship with yourself and those around you and what really matters, I don't know.
Well, what you're saying brings up for me, like how helpful it is to be able to know what you want. At least in this, for me, this is like isolated to a certain side of my life, like on the professional side. I feel like, I don't know. In terms of my life outside of work stuff, I think I had a loose idea of like the values that mattered and kind of the way I wanted to be living my life. I wasn't like, I'm going to marry this person who looks like this and we're going to have a wedding like this and I'm going to have just this many kids and all. Like that was relatively fluid. It was like there were many ways that I could build a life that would allow me to feel a certain way. And I think I knew how I wanted to feel. I think work-wise, like professional aspirations, career stuff was like so less clear to me. I didn't know what I wanted. And I know I'm not alone in this, like the transition from schooling existence where what you want is sort of predefined for you of like, of course you should want to do well in this class. And of course you should want to do well in this sports thing. Like what success looked like was like provided. I think when I was unleashed into the world, I mean, stupidly going back to the C- and in camp, like if I could have been a doctor, that would have continued my idea of like, here's what good is. Like, I know what I need to be able to do. And so like, and I think absent of that, actually, Arivi talked about this in our conversation where she's like, when you don't know what you want, at least for me as an achiever, whatever that means, like, when I didn't know what I wanted, it meant that what I wanted was just for someone else to tell me I was good. So I think what Arivi said this on one of our conversations where when you don't know what you want, there's a way that you kind of give power over to others to just validate that you're good. And I feel like that's one of the things that I think I'd be more resilient around feedback if I knew where I was trying to go, because the feedback would be productive towards me becoming or me doing XYZ. But instead, when I don't know like what that long-term vision is, the feedback is just personal, because I think in the short term, absent a goal, the default goal is just to be good enough. And so therefore any feedback that's critical means I'm not good enough. But so much more useful to know what you want. And I wish that I know there are a lot of people that struggle with this, to know what they want to do and what they want their career to be. But you're in such a stronger position when you know that, I think, in that part of your life.
Agreed, 100%.
Yeah. Anyways, maybe we can make sure our kids know what they want to be when they grow up. But also, I don't know. That's my thing. I think I've just never took it that seriously.
I don't know, similar but different to you. I always knew, like what you said, values. Like I've always said, like if someone says like, "What do you want to do?" I'm just like, I love people and I want to be with people, and which is like so fucking like Teletubby ass. Like what? But it's true. Any job I've ever taken or like community I've joined or you know, friends that I've surrounded myself, it's always just like I love people and I'm attracted to people and supporting people and having community and network and whatever. And like I think that's also okay if that's all I knew that I wanted to do, and that's going to change. Like it's going to change things, it's going to adapt, who knows where it'll bring me. I never would have pictured where I am now, and I'm just kind of like, okay, I'm along for the ride.
Yeah. Yep.
But also like, I don't know if you want to be like that. I know my way of living terrified my dad, where he's just like, "Oh my God, what do you want?" Like he's like, "I'm so confused because I always knew I wanted to be a scientist, and I always knew what my path forward would look like because that's what I knew I wanted to do." And I'm just like, "Huh,
Yeah.
can't relate."
Yeah. I know we've talked about this too. You know, my parents both wanting to be writers from the beginning, which is like so nice. And also to bring it full circle before we talk about our joy.
Yes.
I think there is something to the lack of or limits of the models that were presented to us, and the full circleness being to Cait Scudder's use of like the way that her branding and her presentation of self is so layered and varied that it gives an example that is successful. That's all of these things and messy, as opposed to, I feel like I grew up, the thing I often think about is sports were so meaningful to me and soccer was so meaningful to me. I wish there had been a model of a way to continue to do that or be around that then. And it wasn't, there were men, or you're on the women's national team. There was no like professional path of you stop playing and then you move into like broadcasting or team ownership or like that was all that was very, I only saw dudes doing that. And for whatever reason, annoyingly, that meant I didn't look at those as options. I was like, they're different than me. I think that was a failure of imagination on my part. But yeah, I'm glad everyone should share their stories out loud, which maybe that's what we're doing.
Aw,
Look at us.
we did
So basically, we're great.
I'm like,
A+.
nailed it. Okay, task completed. Next journey in life.
Exactly. Shut it down. Oh God. All right. That was joyful for me. I was gonna say my only other joy, or not only, my quick joy. It's been when we've recorded this is middle of October. It's now rained for like 2 to 3 days straight. and
Jesus, literally.
the outlook is bleak. But our youngest, of course, is the first in our family to actually have rain boots.
Stop. I love this.
Which I was like, there's no one, this is classic New England. No one really needs a winter coat or a raincoat or rain boots or proper snow gear because, like, whatever, you're only going to wear it like 3 or 4 times a year and $500 on a jacket that you're only going to wear 2 to 3 times a year. Just be a little bit cold. Finally, I've like grown into a world where like maybe we should have things that make us feel a little more comfortable when the environment is not. So for her, we got her these little like purple rain boots, and she's actually been able to like run around in them. And I look at her and I'm like, you're more comfortable than all of us because you have rain boots, and they're purple, which is her color.
Hell yes, she
so
deserves that.
Those little purple rain boots in the rain make me
also
laugh.
Very fitting that she is the one to get the rain boots and enjoy them, and you know damn well she will make use of them until they don't fit.
True.
So,
oh my God, yes, she loves them.
Yes. Oh, I love that. That's really sweet. Struggle through it. It's fine if your feet are wet. You're fine.
Oh my God.
Dry.
Yes.
Fuck up.
Exactly.
I don't care if you're if you're overstimulated. Just it's fine.
Yes. Walk it off.
Oh, I love it.
Any joy in your beautiful existence, V?
Yeah, joy is that. Well, did I use this last week? I don't think so. We had our first week of daycare last week, which is like the first time I've had any help, consistent help with childcare. And so it's been amazing. It's
after a year, just to clarify for listeners.
14 months. Sorry, everyone needs to know it was actually more than a year. 14 months. We're still not at like full days yet. We're working our way up, but I'm really proud of him and honestly proud of me too. Like I thought I was going to be a mess and just like sad. And I definitely feel sadness, but I'm not sad. Like I know that he is capable and he's safe and he's like cared for and he's okay. And I know that he's like, I don't know. Yeah, he could do this. He just needs to get a little more confident. So we're still adjusting, obviously, but it's been so lovely. I have noticed that the house is so quiet now. And so I'm practicing trying to sit in silence and not have to have something playing in the background. But that's hard. So if anyone has advice on that.
Oh my gosh, good for you.
Yeah, it's really like I'm used to just constantly anything going on. So now it just feels so quiet. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm so glad. I'm so proud of you for all you've carried through this 14 months. And I'm so proud of you for setting yourself up for the next little phase and acknowledging that it's good and sad at the same time.
Yeah.
Holding both.
It's so, it's healthy. And I found like a million, I don't know, anytime anyone will talk about it with me, I'm like, oh my God, what was your experience like? Tell me how your transition was. Like, how are you feeling? What does your kid think of school? Whatever.
Yeah.
I'll talk to anybody about it. Which is also great and unifying. Like with all of this stuff, we're all messing up together. We're all doing things for the first time together. You know, like it's just kind of cool to hear other people's experiences and either relate or be like, oh, I hope, or learn from them. So that's my joy, and I'm sticking to it.
Oh, you are joy.
I love you.
I love you too.
You're the best.
You too. I hope you find some more sunshine on this rainy day.
Oh, truly.
Yeah. Thank you for having all these conversations. It's so fun to reflect on them with you. I love your perspective. I love that you love yourself.
I'm like, love it, love me.
Love that for you.
I love we for me.
All right, V. I love you. Have a glorious day. Okay, bye. so much for joining us. Please remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode and we can reach even more rock stars like you. The Mothers is a production of Backline Media, shining a light on those who carry the team.